Hello again, Gary Stearman. Time for another edition of Prophecy in the News. Once again, we have in studio author L.A. Marzulli and with him Richard Shaw. Together, they have come up with this book. It's called Further Evidence, and we're going to talk about this book today, and you'll want to hear what they have to say. L.A. Marzulli, Richard Shaw, welcome again to Prophecy in the News.
Thanks.
It's going to be fun today because we're going to be talking about this book, and this book is of interest to you as a Christian. And I want you to listen carefully because L.A. and Richard, I think, have been led of the Lord to pursue a particular line of observation and a particular line of evidence to bring forth a story that needs to be brought out today. And L.A., let's begin talking about the book, Further Evidence. Further evidence of what?
Well, further evidence of the UFO phenomena and all of its different components. We get into things like crop circles, alien abductions, implants, and this nefarious breeding program which seems to be going on. All, in my opinion, which herald back to the days of Noah. Jesus warns us it'll be like the days of Noah when I return. One of the markers of the days of Noah that differentiates from any other time is the fact that these hybrid beings known as the Nephilim are wandering the earth. Of course, the Nephilim are the byproduct of the union between the fallen angelic hosts and the women of earth. And so this begs the question, are we seeing this happening today? In my opinion, absolutely. There is a breeding program going on. It's behind the scenes. It's been being conducted very vigorously, and there's an end game here. And as in the words of Dr. Jacobs, who's interviewed in the book Further Evidence, he believes that they are now integrating into our society.
Well, let me just agree with you here for a moment. Theologically, my belief is that that Satan would very much like to destroy as many human beings as he can, or that is, remove them from the sphere of redemption. The Lord wants us to be redeemed. His love is infinite. He has sent his Son into the world in order to provide redemption for every human being. Satan, on the other hand, is very busily obscuring the program in any way that he can, including, by the way, and I have come to believe this, and I think it's very scriptural. I have come to believe that one of the ways that Satan is operating against God's redemptive plan is by hybridizing human beings. And a human being who is not a true genetic human being is not eligible for redemption. And that's a sad truth, but we find it all through the Bible.
I think coupled with that, if our theory with this little implant which we've seen and held in our hands and looked at under a scanning electron microscope, if it's true that you take this mark of the beast that we hear about in Revelation, there are 4 criteria to that mark. You take the mark, you can't buy, sell, or trade without it. We all know that one. But the second one, you take the mark, grievous sores appear in your body. Something's going on with this mark, which has implications, I think, that most people have overlooked. The third one is that you take the mark, you won't be able to die. It says, in those days, men and women will seek death and not die. Well, what is linking back into, and that is the days of the mark. Well, the fourth one is the most severe. You take that mark, and you basically wind up in the lake of fire. There's no grace, no mercy being showed by a God who has infinite love. Something is going on here with this mark. I believe you take this mark of the beast, and I've held this thing in my hand, what I believe is a precursor to it, these little implants. I believe it's going to change, this is my theory, my hypothesis, it's going to change the host's DNA, so the person who takes it will become essentially a modern-day Nephilim, or the spawn of the fallen one. And that's why there's no redemption, and that's why the judgment is so final.
You know, I think a change takes place in a human being who receives Christ.
Absolutely.
I've thought that now for decades.
On the DNA level, I do.
As you lead someone to Christ, you discover that when they receive Christ by faith, it's as though a channel is opened up, a communications channel between that person and God, and suddenly the lights go on. You can understand Scripture, you can understand the work of the Son, you can understand prophecy, and where you couldn't before. it's like some part of you was closed up, is now open. Well, is that not physical? You can make an argument that it certainly sounds physical, like a physical change that has taken place in you. And suddenly now you are a new person in Christ Jesus. And I believe I am. I know you believe you are.
Absolutely. And added to that, Scripture says the natural man, the man who is not born again, Spirit-filled, does not understand the things of the Spirit.
Amen.
Before I became born again 33 years ago, I would have had no idea of anything that we're talking about here today. Now we are immersed in it, and I know that I'm a completely different man. I'm a new creature in Christ because of what His Spirit has done to me. And I know that I also believe that the fallen one, Satan, is trying, as you said earlier, trying to take as many human beings away from this redemptive plan of Jesus of Nazareth, the blood of Christ shed for our sins. That's what we see. And what is manifesting, the way he's doing it, I believe, is through the abduction phenomena, through the UFO phenomena, and what I also call the coming great deception. When they show up, when mile-wide craft, and there's going to be a point in time when this happens, because all the people on the other side of the aisle are anxiously awaiting the appearance of the so-called extraterrestrial, the revealing of the so-called extraterrestrial. When this happens, it is the ultimate game changer. It is a global paradigm shift. And unless a Christian understands our priority beforehand, what he or she is looking at, they will in fact be deceived. That's why we wrote Further Evidence, to wake people up.
Now, Richard Shaw, you have contributed to Further Evidence. You have entered some of your own ideas into these pages. What's moving you these days as you write and think about this phenomenon?
Well, Gary, thanks for asking. I think one thing that really intrigues me is just the intricacies of the whole UFO phenomena, all the different ways that that these craft are being manifested all over the world. And are there any parallels in ancient texts and in scriptures and biblical texts that could help give us clues to what's happening today? And yes, I think that there are indeed things that we can look at and study and see what's going on now, and how does that compare to stuff that we've read, or even how does it compare to stuff that we've been studying. Like when Ellie and I went to Peru, we saw all these magnificent structures with all of these stones and all of that. Well, the other day I went to a meeting where Captain Robert Salas spoke, and he was a captain over a ballistic missile base in 1967. And a UFO landed at the base and took out 10 of their missiles so they couldn't fire them. And this has all been declassified just within the past year or two. And one of the interesting things about it was that one of the soldiers on the base ran down into a missile silo to try to reactivate the missile, not to launch it, but just to get the electronics going again. And he said the silo was filled with static electricity. It was like all over his body, all over the equipment. And it was just preventing them from launching something. But the intriguing part is, like we've talked about these huge stones in Peru, how could they possibly have been positioned? There's no construction damage. Like, we always see these pictures of millions of people dragging these stones on pallets and ropes. It's just such baloney that we've been taught. Well, one thing that I thought was interesting was Captain Salas mentioned that the tops of the missile silos have a door, they call it a lid. It's made out of concrete, and it weighs 20 tons.
A blast door.
It's a blast door, and they slide back really fast on steel rails. I'm sure you've seen these historical pictures of when they launch, this thing goes zooming back and out of the way, and the missile takes off. Well, on the missiles that were deactivated, those doors were basically lifted off their hinges and just set on the ground. And they weigh 20 tons each.
Using some form of technology that we don't understand.
And this ties us back into what we saw in Peru at Sacsayhuaman, these huge megalithic stones and structures placed from a quarry 40 or 50 miles away with polygonal shapes into a wall which still exists. So it's a link.
Now, in your book, you cover a number of subjects. And we have, on a previous program, talked about the abduction phenomenon, which is covered in the DVD you made, and also this book. But there are several other topics, and one of them that you said you wanted to talk about had to do with cattle mutilation. Now, I have written in the past on the subject. And we've all addressed it as students of Bible prophecy. What in the world would the dark forces be doing when they mutilate cattle? You have devoted some time and study, and you've got a little bit in your book on the subject.
Absolutely. And what people need to understand is that whoever is doing this, and of course we believe it's the fallen ones, the intruders as you like to call them, they come and in darkness, they take the cattle, they mutilate the cattle, sex organs are cored out, tongues are removed, eyes are removed, all with surgical precision, and then they dump the carcass back in the field. I mean, if you're going to take something and do that, why not just, take it and move it to another state or drop it into the ocean or whatever? No, it's very deliberate. And this, of course, the rancher comes out and they look at their animal, their prize bull or cow or calf or whatever, and they're horrified by what they see. Who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Well, I get a lot of emails from people that tell me stories because they feel safe with me, quite frankly. And one such story was from a rancher. I won't tell you what state it is, but she wrote me, and there was a cattle mutilation on the property. And she was, of course, extremely upset. They called out law enforcement, and law enforcement sat there and tried to convince her that this was the work of a predator. Well, she pointed out to the law enforcement that, first of all, there's no blood in the animal. The coyotes wouldn't touch it. The sex organs were cored out with perfect precision. The animal's entire face was like, the jaw was like stripped, and yet there's this very clean line on the face of the animal where obviously something has taken it and removed all that flesh. And with all due respect to law enforcement, they were saying, well, it's a predator, it's this, it's a satanic cult. And she's going, no. So a couple of weeks later, and this is why this case really blew me away. She had a cow that was pregnant, but wasn't due to calf for another 2 months. She came back from work. She was compelled to leave work early for unknown reasons. She was just upset. She leaves work, goes back to the house, and one of her farm workers comes in and tells her that the calf was birthed without coming out of the birth canal and was found mutilated in the pasture. And that just can't happen. So now we're looking at it's things that are just seemingly physically impossible, and yet there they are. And that's in the book. That account is in the book.
It seems like they're going after genetic material.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
Let me just clarify this, and that is this calf was found in the field. This actually a premature calf.
Correct. 2 months premature.
Found in the field, and the cow had not been operated on.
Right.
That's impossible.
And did not pass through the mother's birth canal. It was taken from her.
And so we're dealing now with another technology, another race, and this brings up the subject that always hits me when we're talking about cattle mutilations. I've read stories about events for example, in eastern Washington State, in places in Idaho, Montana, where there's a lot of ranching. A lot of cattle ranchers have lost so many cows through mutilation that their profit margin's been cut almost to the breaking point.
Sure, exactly.
And they're asking, well, what's going on? Why in the world, if these are visitors from another place, would they be operating on my cattle? And I go back to the Bible, and I look at the false gods. I look at Baal and Molech, and the others who demanded meat sacrifices in the Old Testament. And I'm saying to myself, perhaps the same false gods in different clothing are desiring meat sacrifices and taking what they want out of modern cattle.
I agree. I also think it's a strange harvest that Linda Moulton Howe talks about.
Right.
I believe they're taking genetic material, which again is used and this is a stretch, and this is just a theory, but this is the theory that we're operating on, that this genetic material is then used in the creation of these hybrid beings.
At any rate, we're dealing with dark forces, and we are dealing with a kind of level of strangeness now that tells us that we are in the closing days of this dispensation. And I strongly believe that. Again, the book is called Further Evidence, and it's got some wonderful photography in it. Thank you, Richard.
It's not all mine, but...
and it's got some pictures you're not going to see anywhere else about a number of different things. You're still researching. In fact, you're planning another trip. Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's coming up very quickly.
Headed for faraway places to do some faraway study.
Yes, we are going to Peru again, and we'll be coming back with DNA evidence, or DNA samples, I should say, which we'll then test in multi-laboratories to try to pin down what we're looking at. And one of the reasons why we're doing this is we've had skeptics look at this, and no matter how much information you present to them, until we get the DNA evidence, in all honesty, we don't know what we're looking at. We believe that there's genetic manipulation going on. The DNA evidence will prove it one way or the other.
And you're going to join us on the 28th of March next year for the Orlando Prophecy Summit. In fact, both you and Richard are going to be speaking, right, guys?
That's right.
And you're working on things to talk about right now. Who knows what you'll know by that time? It's going to be exciting.
It'll be fun.
Listen, you need to know about the March 28th Orlando Prophecy Summit. It's going to be big. Gary Stearman with a word about the upcoming Orlando Prophecy Summit, March 28th through 30th. It's going to be fabulous, Bob.
It's going to be the Prophecy Conference for the Ages. 24 speakers in sunny Orlando, Florida. The sunshine, the beaches, Disney World, Universal Studios, the Holy Land theme park, and 24 incredible speakers.
Like Chuck Missler, Bill Salas, L.A. Marzulli, and, by the way, Mark Biltz.
Don't forget Mark Biltz. 2 weeks before the blood moons hit Israel, Mark Biltz is going to be speaking at our conference. L.A. Marzulli, fresh off his trip to Peru, his hunt for the skulls and the skeletons of the Nephilim. It's going to be fabulous.
Bob, for our viewers in the southeastern United States, this is a one-day drive to a beautiful hotel, and we're going to have the most fabulous get-together you can possibly imagine. Be with us. Call the 800 number right now, 1-800-475-1111. We'll see you there. Let's get back to the heart of this book, Further Evidence. Let's talk about why Christians should understand the times in supernatural terms. I don't think we need to be afraid of the supernatural, right?
Well, the entire Bible is rife with supernatural scriptures. I mean, when we look at the virgin birth, we think about Moses parting the Red Sea. I mean, I just gave you two major supernatural events. Jesus rising from the dead 3 days later. What can be more supernatural than that? And if we take the supernatural out of the Bible, we're just left with some genealogies and a few battle reports, and that's it. It's, in my opinion, in fact, with all due respect, I call the Bible, which means book, I call it the guidebook to the supernatural. As a believer, it tells me how to interface through the power of the Holy Spirit, how to interface with what's happening here on planet Earth. And that's what I find so absolutely fascinating and interesting.
I want to ask Richard something. We off air, we were talking about photographing UFOs.
Right.
Now, there's the general belief that the UFO phenomenon is rare. That is to say, you might see one over in this state, and then 3 months later you see another one over here on the other side of the country in this state. Mm-hmm. But actually, they may be far more common than we think. And as a skilled photographer of many years' experience, you were telling me that there are certain types of cameras that are able to see these things all the time.
Right. We're discovering that a lot of these craft that are invisible to the naked eye, for one of two reasons. Either they're at such a high altitude you can't see them, but they're actually there, or they're cloaked. I mean, this sounds like Star Trek or something.
Yeah, it does.
But essentially what they're doing, they're able to alter the frequency of light that they're emitting, that it's a frequency that our eyes can't see. It's either infrared or ultraviolet. And there's been UFOs captured on infrared film or in infrared photography or ultraviolet quite a bit recently, including my own experience.
And we're beginning to develop the technology to see these things, which, by the way, is interesting in itself. We're catching up, as it were, with the supernatural, and that's
we're finding that some of these cameras that you can just go out and buy, like the little GoPro Hero cams that everybody's using now, for about $400, can see certain spectrum of infrared light that your eye can't see.
And so the UFOs are there, but we just don't always see them. You know, that reminds me of the Bible in 2 Kings with Elisha and his servant Gehazi. And Gehazi is very much afraid because the enemy forces are gathering. And Elisha prays that Gehazi's eyes might be opened, that he might see the forces of the Lord. And immediately they saw horses and chariots of fire in the surrounding hills that they couldn't see before. But they were there, they just couldn't see them. It's the same phenomenon, I think, don't you? I mean, literally.
It could be. That's what I was like saying in the previous show. Like, I'm looking at stuff in scriptures and comparing it with modern technology, and there's certain things that we can now make parallels to. It's like, maybe this is what was really happening, and the writer 3,300 years ago didn't know how to describe it. How would you explain I saw, a red LED, or I saw something in infrared spectrum? How would you? There's no way you could say that back then.
And yet, the Bible in that particular scripture is talking about fiery chariots. What if that's the vehicle of choice? What if these chariots? I mean, this gets crazy stuff. I get it, but what if it's just a chariot with fiery horses? I mean, we know in the book of Revelation, Jesus rides back on a white horse. It's not a space vehicle. It's not a machine of any. It's a white horse. The rider on the white horse. Apparently, Jesus likes horses. And we're riding with him in the Battle of Armageddon on white horses. I mean, that's incredible. But when we look at that, it's like we're going to fly a flying white horse. But that's what it is. And that to us is absolutely supernatural.
I trust that by that time I'll know how to ride a horse.
Yes, sir.
I hope.
Let's talk about a couple things that I think we need to talk about in the book. Again, it's called Further Evidence by L.A. Marzulli and Richard Shaw. Let's talk about the idea of what these alien forces may be doing to people as we speak right now. In other words, they're performing experiments on human beings. We hear about abductions. We hear about probes being inserted. We hear about, and you've really had the opportunity to get up close and personal with a lot of these implants
Absolutely.
that people are talking about.
There's a man that we take his face and I'll let Rick tell the story of how he came to us. But the bottom line is this: he's been abducted. He's from the time he was like 5 years old, and he began to tell us about that. And I think we're maybe the first people he actually felt free enough to talk about his experience. But he was taken at 5 years old, and he fought them at first. And then the second time he was knocked out. Well, the guy has an implant in his knee, and this is all in Watchers 7. And we talk a little bit about it. I've interviewed him in Further Evidence. He has an implant right below his knee, and we're going to extract this implant, probably in December, and take it to the lab. But tell us the backstory on that.
Well, this is just to show that ordinary people are having extraordinary experiences, and this is happening all over the world. And they're afraid to talk about it with other people because people will think they're crazy, or they don't remember the whole story, so that it sounds like they're a little off-center because they can't describe it in detail. But this is a common thing that happens. They forget.
Now you talk about something that I'm not fully aware of, just vaguely aware of, and that is that these little implants that are being put in people actually are detectable as they give off radiation.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we've done in Watcher 7 is to follow this whole process all the way from detecting it all the way to where we actually remove it, which will be in Watchers 8. It's a long process, and we did X-rays, we did a CAT scan, and then we used various measurement devices to look for
including a stud finder, a common everyday stud finder, which actually the needle goes like this when you place it right over the the object. Unbelievable.
It just proves it's a metallic object.
It's a metallic object.
Metallic objects has been placed there, and you don't see a scar where it went in or anything.
Nothing.
It goes in.
As Roger would say, there's no known portal of entry, is what he always says.
And of course, that again speaks of a higher technology, and.
Except sometimes there's an ultraviolet signature left where the implant is put in.
Little orange dot.
Well, we're talking here about scientific things, about the edges of science, if you will, and yet we're really talking about the Bible. Because the technological and the supernatural have met in our age. They are coming together. And right in the middle, we find ourselves as students of the Bible looking at all this and saying, please, Lord, help us understand. And we know the time is short. I think if I were you, I'd be stimulated to get out and tell your friends and neighbors if they don't know the Lord Jesus, there may not be much time. We're living in incredible days. The days are going to be shorter and shorter. Doesn't it seem like the time's going faster? I mean,
It's accelerating. Yes.
accelerating.
Yes,
It seems as though things
absolutely.
are just popping at an
I agree.
incredible
It's hard
rate.
to keep up with. Things are moving so quickly.
The book is called Further Evidence. It has some wonderful pictures in it. It has interviews with, well, for example, the interview with Dr. David Jacobs is just phenomenal. I mean, worth the price of the book. Dr. Jacobs is a researcher into UFOs who throws a lot of light on the spiritual phenomenon that marks the comings and goings of these strange vehicles and strange beings. And we as Christians know that there's nothing there that we can't understand using the wisdom that's already been written in the Bible. Further evidence, now the DVD, Watcher 7, L.A. and Richard have put together Watcher 7. I've said this many times. It's the best of all the Watchers series. It needs to be seen on the big screen. It's that good. It needs.
Thanks, Gary.
It really is. And we're offering the book and the DVD to you today as the Watcher 7 UFO package. When you call the 800 number on your screen, ask specifically for the Watcher 7 UFO package. And when you do, you'll not only get the book and the DVD for $44.90 plus shipping and handling, but a couple of bonus DVDs, absolutely free. And these are part of the Pikes Peak Prophecy Summit, where L.A. Marzulli spoke last July and wowed the crowds, I might add. Well, you can see these absolutely for free because they're part of the package. The Watcher 7 UFO package includes the DVD, Watcher 7, the book, Further Evidence, the 2 DVDs, absolutely free, thrown in as a part of the package, $44.90 plus shipping and handling. You got the 800 number on your screen right now. Don't wait. Well, we're out of time. And I always say that reluctantly, with a little sadness, because I can think of so many more things
Sure.
we need to talk about right now. Let me just say that the book, the DVD, will open your mind to some possibilities. I know Richard Shaw, I know L.A. Marzulli, and I know that they are men of faith. They will not betray your faith as a Bible-believing Christian out there, because they are that themselves. Guys, thanks for coming in
Thanks,
today.
Gary. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Gary.
And may the Lord bless your work as it goes on.
Thank you.
And by the way, you have a great day in the Lord, and keep looking up, everybody. Prophecy in the News is a viewer-supported program made possible by our many friends around the world. Be sure you tune in every day for breaking news and our daily prophetic news updates at prophecyinthenews.com, or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/prophecyinthenews.